Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Samuel. Hi, Adam.
Morning.
So I've just pasted an agenda into the chat. Something we'll wait a few minutes for any late joiners before we proceed. But first thing we'll do is to welcome you as an observer and potential candidate for the TSC. So welcome to this meeting.
I guess we might have to wait for Marcus to even get quorum in this meeting, based on other people's not attendance.
Yeah, so Nicholas said he was unable to attend.
And Johnny said he'll be unable to attend, and I think Sebastian also had the Laos meeting or something.
Yeah, so we're trying to get them to shift that so it didn't conflict. It's very unfortunate that it conflicts.
This meeting could always move after the newly elected join. If anybody's got flexibility for that.
We need to run that past the new members' text.
Oh, understood. Yeah, I'm not suggesting we do anything now. I was just
Let's decide on their behalf of the new cohort what their meeting time shall be in 2 weeks. Can we see a show of hands?
was more so announcing that we could get to that decision in a couple of weeks once
we know the outcome. Absolutely.
Yes.
Is there anything that anyone here would like to add to the agenda?
No, looks good to me.
We may not get through all of it, of course, but we can postpone that to next week. The Tex, you were going to raise the issue that several of us will be at the Cardano Summit next week.
Correct.
I'll be there, you'll be there, Marcus will be there, Sebastian will be there.
I'll be there. Yeah, so like almost enough of the committee to make it not quorum if there was a meeting.
Or alternatively,
or have a quorum meeting in person at the event. Yeah.
Neil, Ben, do you want us to hold the meeting next week?
I won't be going to the summit, but if you want to hold the meeting, I would be happy to attend virtually, time permitting, depending on what time. Okay. But yeah. Otherwise, if you're able to get quorum without me, and it's at a time where I'm unavailable, by all means, go ahead.
Right. The alternative. Well, we may of course be in sessions, in which case, this meeting could either go ahead without us, or we could cancel next week's meeting. I think Tex was suggesting that we could cancel next week's meeting if we can't get together.
Are we missing Duncan as well today?
We're missing Duncan.
Yeah. Okay, I've just kicked him because he's just talking to me on another channel. I said, what?
Okay.
And we haven't had any. Alex was not in attendance at last week's meeting. and
Right.
we haven't heard anything from him, but he is on the agenda to provide an update on the protocol parameters update.
Yeah.
So,
I penciled him in again. He's going to be in the Cardano summit, I expect. So maybe we'll be quorum or almost quorum at the Cardano summit. Okay, but let's kick off with the agenda. So the first item I've put on the agenda is the sad news about Alex Esgin, who's one of the core developers working in the consensus team. So Alex sadly passed away over the weekend. So it's a great shock and a blow for us. It's also a shock and a blow to the whole community. Alex was he was fulfilling critical roles in the consensus team. He had a good understanding, excellent understanding of security issues relating to consensus. So we've lost a highly valued colleague there. So I would motion that we send our condolences to his family and colleagues that Intersect should do that, or we as the TSC should do that, and recognise his contribution to Cardano. If we need a formal vote text, we can take that offline. Okay.
I don't think a formal vote is needed for something like that. It doesn't bind us to anything. So, yeah, I mean, yes, it was a shock. Apparently, his father sent Nick Clark an email on Monday morning, and no more information has been forthcoming yet. And I think I know that several people I've been in contact with are looking for ways in which they can express their thing to the family and friends. So we will reach out and find out how people can express their sympathies and what the appropriate form of wake might be. Okay.
Great, thank you very much, Neil. That's great. So a very sad loss to us all. Let's move on. Second item I put on the agenda was a report on the UPLC conference in Edinburgh. So I promised to update you on that. It was a 3-day event held at the University of Edinburgh in the Bayes Centre. About 30 to 35 people attended. So members of the core UPLC development team, but also ecosystem partners, including Xiong Yang and Philip Desaro and many other people. Xiong Yang, would you maybe like to tell us about it? I forgot to introduce you as a guest. So Xiong Yang is a prospective TSC member. He's put himself forward as a candidate. Xiong Yang was one of the people at the UPLC conference, and I invited him to this meeting as an observer.
Yes. So I'm one of the team member at the PlutoScore team. So we develop and maintain the UPLC validator and the Plint, which is high-level language that people use to develop the Cardano smart contracts. Previously I developed smart contracts for decentralized protocols like Liquid, and maintained the frameworks for developing smart contract that is other than Plint. So in Edinburgh, they invited most of our PlutoScore team and community members who also develop similar projects, and we did presentations on each other's work and went over different features we want to add in the future. So That's a high-level overview. If you have any other question more specific to the details, I can also provide the details.
Yeah, so let me add to that. So I took away a number of things, Xiangyang, from the conference. So one of them was our work on metaprogramming, so the work you were doing in Plutarch, using dynamic metaprogramming to create UPLC code. So rather than using template Haskell as happens in Plinth. So that was an interesting thing to do. This allows optimization at compile time of the UPLC code. So very, very interesting piece of work there. And there are other people doing similar things too. I saw that being mentioned. Adam.
Yeah, I mean, neither of you gentlemen might know the answer here, but was this an invite-only private workshop, and is it intended to be ongoing in future years as part of the development cycle of Plutus along with Cardano, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so the answer is this event was invite-only, Adam. So it's organised by IOG's Plutus team. It was a relatively small event, about 30 to 35 people, including locals. And we were fortunate enough to be invited to that. The plan is for it to be repeated. So the team felt it was so valuable that they should repeat it. They should run it on an annual basis, and it would be nice if it was opened up. I don't think there was anything discussed that is particularly secret during conferences. It's all very good technical discussion. So I will raise that question with Ziyang and suggest that it could be opened up. Obviously, we'd need to think about budget provision for that, because there's a limit to how much any organisation can afford with a completely open conference. It'd be great to do that. They were talking about holding it in conjunction with other events, so that would help, certainly with travel cost. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking that there's probably a lot of potential people that are building or working with UPLC or smart contracts that were probably interested in the contents, but since it wasn't live streamed or really announced to anybody, only the handful of invitees got to participate and be aware of the content of said workshop. So, the more we could be inclusive and develop open source openly going forward, the better. Even if, I'm totally okay if it's an application criteria to participate, so that way we're not getting random people that don't know what UPLC is going to the workshop. But making it a little bit more inclusive is probably a good goal to set as we go forward. But it sounds like that is in progress, so that's encouraging.
I should say all the presentations were recorded and also live streamed, so it will be published maybe next week or the following week.
Okay, awesome, great.
yeah, I think it's YouTube they're planning to use for that. Something. Yeah. So saying the metaprogramming, code level transformation optimization. Number of interesting talks on that. One talk on compiling to the JVM, which was interesting because of they were getting very good performance from that, but it's something you'd have to look at very cautiously if you're going to include it as an on-chain mechanism. It might be suitable for L2 L2 chains, but we would need to be extremely cautious about including a JVM on mainnet, of course. Yeah.
Just sort of FYI, when we were at that meeting in Oxford earlier this year, I had a long conversation due to Jeremy Gibbons making me sit alongside him, this gentleman from Microsoft, during the formal dinner, about the formal specification of WASM engines and other chips. And the general conclusion was they haven't got a clue. They're relying on that it hasn't broken yet to mean that it's secure. And they basically don't sleep at night because they run lots and lots of different versions of everything, because basically they're just waiting for the second, for the disaster to occur. So the notion of, the thing that makes my blood run cold with respect to jets in this type of stuff is there's a whole level of formal proof that people are going to want out of this, or they're going to want a hell of a lot of certainty out of it. That's and I know you can say, oh, but it works. Yeah, but if you find a bug in the jet and you can steal a few billion, what happens next?
Yeah, so the particular approach was using, as you say, a just-in-time compiler for the JVM to achieve the really high performance. You could use a bytecode interpreter instead. So the JIT is not essential. It might be necessary
But
to achieve really high.
similar. They're not like, it's not like you're using, what is that? There's a kernel that's been formally proven to be correct. It's not like you're using. None of these tools have necessarily good formal proofs associated with them. So any proofs associated, that would worry me, is what I'm saying. How do you build that confidence? Yes, because just saying, oh, it works for Google, right? I can tell you, Google don't sleep at night because of this, right? So they don't announce this, but they just don't. There's plenty of people at Google saying this is a huge risk, and one day it may or may not go wrong.
Yeah, so you're leaning on to the second strand. So the second strand of work that had a lot of attention at the conference was to do with proving properties of smart contracts, and this is being done at a variety of levels. So one of the interesting approaches which is being done is one I've seen used at NASA before, which involves not verifying the compilation route, but verifying the outcomes of the compiler in specific cases. So so there are formal methods which are being used to confirm that the compiler is correct, but the approach that's being taken is not to prove all the details of the compiler, because that's subject to change for something like UPLC, but rather to verify that what the compiler is doing or has done in particular cases is correct. So that will help increase the robustness of the compilation route.
That's not correct. It's actually equal to something else.
Functionally
equivalent. It uses the same values.
Yes.
Yeah. So the word correct here means equal to something else that's been done. Right? You're looking for data. Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah. So this is the same. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to simplify it in case anyone.
I think it's very important, even for the people listening. There's a difference between two things being equal, and if they've all been done by various independent paths by independent people, and they have made the same mistakes, then you start to get that builds some confidence, right? But both of them could be wrong.
They could both be wrong. If you start with nonsense, you'll end up with nonsense. Sonia.
Yeah, so what they did was in Plinth compiler we have a number of optimizations. So from UPLC you can move around force delay, and you can also do common sub-expression elimination, and we have a number of optimizations. So what they're proving is one code that you're putting before and then the code that comes after the optimizations are semantically equivalent, and those can be formally proven. So yeah, and we have a number of optimizations. So we chained all the proofs that the middle parts are semantically equivalent. So we got the beginning part and then the code that comes after the pipeline. Yeah.
You're assuming a compositionality property that
Yes.
that holds this process. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just if you're doing it in that sort of formal framework, I think it can work. Just making lots of different things and checking the outputs is a much more difficult to stand behind. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
but-
sorry, go on. So,
Yeah, at least we know the optimizers are behaving and it's not inserting undefined behaviors into the UPLC. So that's something worth having.
so there's
I still do this. You know, I got I still see. You know, I can all the regression tests I know in all the compilers for all the times that's gone wrong. I'm just thinking, you know, there's a pinch of salt in that, but it's a good starting approach. I totally agree. Okay.
it's adding additional certainty, Neil, to the process, and it's always better than not doing it. You're gaining value from these techniques, from these formal methods.
For the formal methods, yes, but actually, I know a lot of people who do this type of stuff to try and gain more veracity in their statements. And actually, they could have well employed, if they put their effort elsewhere, they would a lot more from it, because they may not gain anything at all, right? Or they gain negative. I'm just saying it's not always true that throwing effort in this area gets you the best outcome. But I would agree in the vast majority of cases, it's true. Okay, that's all. I'm being pedantic, I'm sorry, but it's important if it's going to be recorded for the future.
Great. So there's a lot of work going on in various areas, both in terms of verifying the compilation route, but also in terms of verifying the properties of the smart contracts. So IO, not sure which branch of IO, this is Roman Sulat, so probably IOE, has a project which is going about proving the properties of the Plutus scripts themselves. That work appears to be going very well from what Roman was reporting, and they're expecting to release some tooling by the middle of 2026. So in line with the promises that were made. So and this will be what's being done there will be public, so people will be able to take advantage of that, of course. So that was great news. Great to see the team working together. Great to see the focus there. There's also Kenneth Mackenzie did a great presentation on the costing framework for the UPLC. So it's explained how the cost information was derived, how we obtained the Plutus cost models using benchmarking. That will definitely be a talk to look at. And I know that's relevant to things like the Plutus parameters, the script parameters. One of the interesting things that I wasn't aware of is that apparently they made a mistake in costing the memory usage for the basic Plutus operations. So for the interpreter operations themselves, they vastly overestimated the memory usage there. Now there've been calls to reduce it to sensible levels, but that of course then would have a knock-on implication to the total CPU cost. So we'll definitely let that infidelity persist. Unmute Mike, Neil.
How big an infidelity? I'm trying to be polite here. How big an infidelity?
I can't remember the exact numbers, but they were, maybe Young remembers, but it's something like they're being costed at 800 and the actual figure is about 20.
Oh, okay. So it's between 1 and 2 orders of magnitude.
Correct. It's a significant discrepancy.
It's a significant difference. Yes, that would require careful benchmarking for real world scripts to see if you would open up a performance problem under those circumstances.
Almost certainly you would open up a performance problem.
Well, yeah, we can see, right? The point is that, but I think that's a we may be in the so I point out we may be in that bloody awkward position, which where we have to reduce the memory units per transaction.
Yeah, we're not going to.
I know, but I'm just saying we may, right? Because that was one of the big, oh dearie me, we don't want to go that direction type statements. Okay.
No. But I think we now understand why the memory units work as effectively as they do to control the CPU cost.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Okay. So it's fortuitous, but
Well, yes, there's an English language phrase which doesn't translate well, but it involves chickens and the male equivalents having occurred, which sounds like a good adjective for this one. Okay.
Great. Yeah. There's also interesting talk by I've forgotten his name, but he is using the cryptographic primitives very heavily. So he's very excited by the new BLS. I think it's the M2M primitives that are being used. Xiangyong, do you remember who that was? I spent some time talking to him.
Oh, you're muted, Xiangyong.
It was Adam. Adam, yeah, last name, I don't know.
Great. So he's been using some of the more complex crypto primitives, and when we introduce the new ones with the next hard fork, he can significantly reduce the time, the total time taken for the cryptographic operations. So this is a great advert for protocol version 11. Neil, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm talking. When you say reduce the time, is this the budget associated with it, or the actual walk clock time?
Walk clock time and budget.
All right, so you're saying they found a much more efficient way of doing it. Is okay, right?
Yes, essentially it's a form of factorization which is going on. So this is very good news for people who are in a similar position to that. I've asked him for copies of his scripts because they'll be interesting, I think, for the benchmarking team to analyze. To see how the crypto primitives are actually being used.
Some careful regression testing will be needed. Yes.
Yes. Yes, but having real world examples is going to be interesting because we only have synthetic benchmarks so far. Great. Was there anything else to add from that, Xiangyong? So very, very happy if people have questions about particular talks or sessions. It's a very high level overview. I've pasted a link to all of the talk abstracts in the chat here.
I think that was it. There was other projects that introduced their own language. So Skylar from Vi Finance, he talked about compiling Jai into UPLC, and Michele from Harmonix Labs talked about his language that resembles assembly scripts, which compiled into UPLC. So yeah, there were some projects to develop the UPLC framework or language.
Yeah. So the impression I get from the team is one of incremental improvements, Xiangyong. I think the UPLC itself seems to be working pretty well. No major issues. What they'll seem to be focusing on are making a number of relatively small improvements to Plutus primitives. One of the things which they will be doing is to optimize case expressions. That seems to make a big difference to the execution time for Plutus scripts.
Yeah.
So eliminating if then else, for example, in favor of a case on case expression on booleans. So that will be rolled out partly in protocol version 11 and partly probably in protocol version 12, which
Yes.
is
So we have already implemented casing on Boolean tuples list unit, which is trivial. Those are all implemented, and it's gonna get deployed on next intra hard fork. And the only thing that's left is casing on data, which will be deployed hopefully on the next hard fork with a different era.
great. Should we
Yes,
move on to the?
and
Sorry, you got
sorry,
something
yeah.
else?
Yeah, and the numbers we have from the performance difference numbers we have is about like 30%, 60% improvement. So it's a significant improvement, especially for if then else, which is a lot faster in built-in casing than using the actual built-in. Same with the casing on list, which is a lot faster than built-in, which is case list. So yeah, it's a pretty good performance improvement that is quite easy to implement on the consumer side of the UPLC.
Yeah, and these are improvements that people will be able to take advantage of without needing to change the protocol parameters. So that's great. Okay, should we move on? Update on Node status. I penciled Johnny in to talk about this because he was at the release meeting. I don't think you weren't at the release meeting, Adam.
No, I wasn't able to make yesterday's meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. So I can give a brief update, which is that Node version 10.6 is still hitting some issues. The teams found some problems with memory usage when syncing from Genesis using LMDB, and this may also affect the in-memory backend. So they're investigating that, but they don't have there isn't a fix at this point in time. And there are one or two other minor issues still affecting the release. So at this stage, we're not sure that there will be a 10.6 release. Maybe the effort is going to switch over to 10.7 instead, but we'll keep people advised on that. The network team has found a glitch to do with churn in peers, and they think it's serious enough that they're going to propose a 10.5.1 patch to roll. Sorry, 10.5.2 patch to that. That should be rolled out pretty quickly, so we can expect to see that in the near future. So most effort's going to be focusing in future on 10.7. 10.7 is likely to be the release candidate for protocol version 11, but it's probably it's some weeks away from being complete. So we would, from where we are, we would expect it to be released in 2025. But obviously that's not then going to allow enough time to have a hard fork in 2025. So we're on track for a Q1 protocol version 11 hard fork from what people are telling us, assuming these issues get sorted out, and we don't have problems, the LMDB problems are sorted out, or the problems don't arise in the LSM backend. So the problems are serious enough that we couldn't even recommend the 10.6 as a pre-release. There's a massive memory leak when syncing from Genesis of the order of so people are experiencing something like 12-16 gigabytes and rising when syncing, which completely negates the point of using the LMDB backend. So that's current status. You briefly popped up, didn't say anything, but I'm guessing.
I just said, c'est la vie. This is what, unfortunately, this is what happens. I mean, I'm sure once they found out the culprit, it'll be relatively easy to fix. We've had a few of these over the last 8 years.
Some interesting details. Apparently, it's not showing up on the local system. It only shows up in the testing on the integrated system. So there could be machine, compiler, or system differences that are triggering this.
My guess is there's something once you integrate it that holds on to something, and that's what's causing it. That would be, I'd bet a pint on that, a half a cider or something, that would be my go-to.
But the team is looking into it, and hope you'll find the cause fairly quickly. They're starting to do detailed benchmarking to try to track it down. And they've got some ideas about how to do that. Tex, hard fork working group. Do you want to fill us in?
I don't have much of an update quite yet. I believe what I put in the chat related to Hard Fork Working Group is I could take a few suggestions as far as what a good cadence might look like. I'm understanding that could get out of hand, but maybe if there's a quick discussion that anybody wanted to have that narrows that down to a day, and then we can simply look at times. I would say that this isn't even fully final. It just gives me a good idea of what makes sense for you all as members of the TSC. A little bit easier to coordinate with the others that have been listed.
So why don't you put out a doodle poll, Tex, and we can. That's probably the easy way to agree on a time. And I'd suggest something which is European afternoon, so we can catch US and European participants.
That'll work.
Great. So we'll leave that with you to suggest some times. All right, I can suggest some likely good times.
Just a note, I mean, this is probably the third or fourth meeting where we've said, let's go ahead and set up this working group and get it going. It needs to get going. Otherwise, we're not going to hit a Q1 hard fork next year, because we need the exchanges on board. We need the teams at the CF making those contacts. Just having IO stamp a hard fork ready node release is not nearly the beginning and end of actually doing a hard fork. And so we need to start educating the community and the downstream people that need to process new Plutus primitives and everything else. So yeah, like we need to get on this and stop talking about getting on it later, essentially.
I absolutely agree, Adam. I had a discussion with Jess Gilbert, who's the IO release manager, about the hard fork, and there are a number of steps that need to be gone through, including perhaps security audit of some of the new Plutus primitives. We discussed that at the Security Council earlier today. There will need to be benchmarking. The parameter committee will need to review the proposed Plutus cost model settings. I don't think there'll need to be any changes to guardrails, but there's a whole process to be gone through, and all of this then needs to be tested on preview, pre-prod. Downstream tooling needs to be upgraded. Exchanges need to upgrade. Wallets need to be upgraded. Stake pools need to be ready. So there's a huge amount of work to do. So getting that moving now seems sensible. Otherwise, it won't be a Q1 hard fork. It will be a Q2 hard fork, even if the development goes well. And Intersect obviously needs to take on some responsibility in coordinating and driving that forward. Great. Other items. So I've got 3 informational items. 3 or 4 informational items. I was hoping Alex is going to give us an update on the Plutus parameter update. My understanding is this has now been deployed and tested by Pi Lanningham on preview. He's tweeted about that. Only positive noises coming back so far. There's now a live governance action on pre-prod, so waiting for that to be enacted, and all going well, we'll be pushing the trigger on the mainnet upgrade very soon. So I think that's an assessment of where we are, and this will be the first stage of opening up 25% improvement, so 25% increase in the memory unit limits. So that's the target being done in 2 stages. So we're aiming at a 25% increase overall in the Plutus memory unit limits, and that will enable much larger scripts to be run. So this will be a great thing for the Plutus community. So that's in progress. 2030 strategic vision strategic plan. We had a request from product committee to provide feedback on that. I took an action to create a document to collate the feedback. I've done that and shared that with the elected committee members. So I started to write into that. Please provide your own feedback there. Sam is going to be presenting it at the day 0 of the Cardano Summit next week. So that will be presented on Tuesday. So now is the time to provide your own feedback on that. We're being asked to contribute to the technology enabling pillar. So this is something we may have to discuss and then coordinate feedback for that. I've made some notes so far as doing that earlier before this meeting. Please feel free to edit that, Adam.
Yeah, just to go on record with this, the Cardano 2030 strategic plan thing, I'm personally against being prescriptive about any particular technologies or specific things that we should build. Like right now, if you read this document, it's very much like work on Hydra and Laos and Paris and basically yet another IO wish list of features that they have proposed and recommended. And we didn't know about Laos and Paris and a lot of these things 2 or 3 years ago. So I don't really want to pigeonhole us into like, we must only work on the things that IO thinks is important right now. In terms of our 2030 vision, I think that kind of makes it an intersect or an IO strategy or roadmap document versus a Cardano ecosystem document. So my personal vote is remove any and all mention of exactly what we will work on, and that document should be more high level, inspirational for the integrators and the developers that are going to come along in terms of what they should be targeting. So, and I have said that as a host of multiple of these workshops around the world, and I've said that in multiple public forums. So this is not new from me, but it is just kind of my feeling on the matter. So yeah, my opinion is rip it all out, delete it all, and we're done. So
recall that in the document, Adam. Tex was first. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's super quick. I was just going to say that in theory, obviously, I can understand the product, the vision, roadmap, whatever. That's where they're aiming to get community consensus. But have we first checked the box to verify that these projects themselves or the basis behind them have the appropriate peer review alongside Cardano? More so than just does this align or solve or fix this SIP? It's where's the community consensus before we say, no, let's now prioritize this? That might be a different direction. That's not that we have to protect going to such deep lengths to say, no, let's, just scrap all of this, but just another avenue of how you might go about that type of conversation.
okay, so this sounds like the typical problem that corporates have, right? Actually, Adam, I think what you are asking for is the capabilities you'd like to see in the 2030 version of Cardano, not the mechanisms by which it would be delivered, right? Right, and that's the sort of positive way to state it. It's not about now how you get to those capabilities might be by improving Hydra or doing this or whatever, but they all have their limitations. And if you have a particular capability you're aiming for, then you can have a discussion as to whether A or B is the best way forward. But if you've already decided that it's going to, be A, then you've lost flexibility. So I would totally agree with you, Adam, right? It should be factored in terms of capabilities and outcomes, not in terms of products and development.
Yeah, so there's an aspiration to obtain $200 million of revenue per year for Cardano. That's the only concrete aspirational goal that I can see in this document, and it's not completely clear to me that that is backed up by the technology.
That's the one. I mean, basically, that seems entirely wrong way round. I was about to say something a bit more coarse, right? That's entirely. If these are the capabilities you need, right? Then you can say, and we should develop them at a particular rate. But as we know, the ecosystem has a certain number of people inside it, and you can't just pull in people. It's absolutely clear that you just can't pull in people and get things to happen. You need the right people, and you need them to stay around for a long time because they got to get the head in the right place. So I mean, again, it's about how you develop the strategy and the strategic stuff. If the idea is how to spend 200 million, there ain't going to be that much money in 5 years' time.
No, the idea, as I understood it, was to generate $200 million per year in revenue, not to
generate $200 million in revenue to what entity?
Not stated.
Yeah, that's one of the unclear parts. Is that total transaction fees, or is that in revenue to the treasury, or what is that? What is that? Where does that 200 million figure come from, and where does it go to? It is diaphanous at best. But yeah, the way I put it is this should be a strategy document, which should just tell us where we're going, where the other hill is from the hill that we're standing on right now. Things like Laos and Midgard and Paris and everything else are tactics that get us to where we want to go potentially. Yeah. But we don't need tactics. We need just strategy. Just where is the next lighthouse that we're aiming for, essentially.
Well, yeah. How do you declare success? Right. That's the point.
Well, yeah, I do also have a problem with defining weird KPIs like 200 million per year of revenue in a strategy document that there's literally zero people to hold anybody accountable to these KPIs. KPIs are for tacticians that are deploying specific things like Hydra to show look, I increased transaction volume on the chain, right? Ergo, I succeeded at a KPI, not for the strategy document itself, because who's going to judge whether or not the strategy document succeeded at strategizing the ecosystem if the ecosystem decides to pivot hard left? It doesn't make sense.
Adam, stop being rational and sane. Oh, so right, that's the. That's the problem. Because I know this is a slight aside, and feel free to stop me. But I've been helping Carlos with the fees and the thingy document, right? And reading it through, and it seems to me that there is a strategic thing that what's failing to be talked about is what happens if Cardano doesn't grow. Right? What does that mean for the whole ecosystem? Right? I.e., what would that mean? If that should be part of the strategy, because the strategy is how do you deal with the future and what you want. And if you want these set of capabilities, what if you don't get the revenue? What do you do, right? And if it's all based on some sort of exponential growth of revenue, I think that's going to cause a lot of problems because I do not see how that can be guaranteed, as you're saying, right?
Great. So I said now's the time to provide feedback and input for Sam, and I'll attend his session next week and aim to summarize our feedback at that point if he's not incorporated it already.
Kevin, this doc you shared is looks like a GitHub Pages or something, and it does have a link to go to a GitHub. Are we supposed to create issues or
No,
PRs?
So Adam, I've shared via the Slack channel. So the document I've shared here is the public one to the GitHub page which describes the strategy itself. But I've shared with you privately a link to a document where we're collating the feedback. So I haven't shared that publicly. So if you check on the Slack channel, you can see that, and we'll pass that on to Sam.
A point of order, right? As of 12:30 today, UK time, all IO members of everybody has an IO who's using the IO Slack to access this now no longer has access. So basically, we have lost the means of communicating with several of our TSC members.
Yeah.
Okay. So for them to be incorporated, tech, we need to work out how to get that fixed, please.
Let's at least share it. I think we do have a private channel in Discord where hopefully some of them may have joined, but we'll see.
We'll see. It seems it's not all possible channels. It's only some channels. Right.
Okay. At this point in time, Neil, I would consider that to be probably a glitch.
It is pretty universal across a huge, but it's a very large change. There's about a dozen channels that people have been throwing out in various places. So this is not unique to us.
No, absolutely not. It seems to be across a lot of technical intersect channels.
Yes.
I don't know about
and other things which don't involve intersect as well, to involve IO.
Yeah. So I would, in the absence of evidence, I would assume accident of this.
Yeah. It's the yes versus conspiracy. Incompetence. I always err on the side of incompetence versus conspiracy. But from the point of view of communication, we've lost the communication. Yeah. They don't even know, right? Because what will happen is that the whole thing will just disappear out of their Slack, and they won't get any notifications that it's gone, so they can't even know, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I was aware of it. I raised it in the Security Council meeting earlier.
Oh, thank you.
It's a concern from a security perspective.
Yes.
And obviously it's a concern from a delivery perspective. So hopefully that will be resolved quickly. Brilliant. Two quick things coming up to mention. There's a document describing INSEC's mission and purpose that was put to the ISC a couple of weeks ago. Please provide your own input to that. I put it into the chat, so please read that. And
it looks like on that one, Kevin, we have a duplicate to the vision and strategy for 2030 as opposed to.
Then that's my fault. I will check that and pass on the correct document. I'll do that out of band. And the other thing to mention is there's a budget committee blog. They're looking for feedback on direction. So please review that and provide the budget committee with any feedback that you feel is appropriate on that blog post. Great question. We had some questions from Marcin Zamachulski from the networking team about maintaining a number of repositories. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, just briefly, I put the proposals in there. He had 3 that he wanted to move over under the Intersect banner. I guess this falls under incubation because the process is there. Connect protocols, IOSIM, and CERDOC. CERDOC connects to KES agent, and the other 2 are SBOM dependencies for Ouroboros network. I can get more clarity there, but it is up for OSC review and TSC review whether we accept or deny moving those repositories over. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, Neil might be able to potentially shed more light on this as a at least former member of the Ouroboros network team. I'm kind of curious why these things were broken apart as separate standalone libraries that are now dependencies, and we're being asked to move them under the Intersect banner and funding model versus just incorporating them directly in the network stack. I don't see multiple tools requiring them, which would predicate the need to be a separate library.
Okay, so for example, IOSIM, right, is widely used by, it's actually up on Hackage as a separate package and is used by several other people. So the main user of IOSIM is the network team, but Consensus use it and other people use it. So that's why it was split out, is because basically try and open source it and get it out there. The other ones, the KES agent is a separate thing, but the IOSIM is the main one for the networking. It gets you all of the property, it gets you all of the state space exploration and property and running things concurrently and doing that. So it's effectively the test environment for everything. Okay. Now that's why it's separated out. It's non-trivially used. Okay.
The other one was typed protocols as well, Neil.
So what protocols?
Typed protocols.
Okay, so typed protocols is again a framework for doing the finite state automata that you need in networking, and that is not as heavily used outside, but it is a entirely logically separate activity that is mainly used by people like Consensus and other people for building the protocols. So all the mini protocols use type protocols. Everybody who writes a mini protocol uses that. That's why they were pulled out. They're pulled out because they really aren't. They're sort of services that they're common things that networking happened to build in the history, not because they are intricately part of. They could be built by somebody else just as equally as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm still just unclear on why IO or well-typed or whoever initially created and spun these out isn't going to just continue to maintain their open source repos, and why it should become an Intersect owned repository, Intersect owned and managed, right? That's I guess the missing piece for me.
That part is probably, you'd have to ask IO why they're asking for this. Well, I can tell you why technically they make sense as separate objects, but why? I think a lot of this is and a lot of it getting out on a Hackage and making it public was to ensure continuity. I think part of the thing one of the things I think we should be careful about is if IO disappeared tomorrow, would we be able to maintain the source code? And I know we can always clone things, but we really need to know some of these things that are becoming open source and helping general communities. Who owns them? I don't know. Who maintains them? It's not a huge amount of time, I think, at this point. These things are I would say they're very mature at this point. Things are added to IOSIM as people need new capabilities at the moment. There's not much fixing work I've seen in the long term. Does that help, folks? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think your concern, Adam, is about creeping scope for Intersect. That Intersect gradually takes over the internet, and we can't do that, right?
Just the money comes with it, yeah. Yeah, yes, go on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like an open source community if the Apache Foundation just owns everything, or the Linux Foundation actually just secretly owns everything, right? Like they might own a lot of it, but owning everything also doesn't necessarily make sense, right?
So perhaps the question we should be asked is why the question we should go back to that should be asked of Marcin, right, is what was he asked to do this by IO, or is this something he's suggesting on his own behalf? Because that's the key question, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah,
again, I would posit, and this is rampant wild speculation, but I don't care because I'm almost out of the committee. But the three maintainers on here is Alex at WellType, Duncan at WellType, and then Marcin at iohk.io looking at hackage for like the typed protocols.
Yeah.
So it seems like more this is related to the schism between those two organizations than it is about like the ultimate ownership, essentially. But it seems like it could also go to WellTyped for maintenance if it's really that mission critical as well.
Yeah.
And I'll
Or
go
stay
back
with
and ask
IOG. That is the third option.
right. We're still agreeing that INSEC should be.
Well, I think the key question here is actually why is it being done? And then I would say the question is, if it weren't maintained, what happens? Right? That's the key question. So, and if it wasn't maintained, if I mean, let's posit it. If IO said we're not willing to spend any of our money maintaining any of this thing, which is critical for the other parts of the system, then someone's going to have to step up to do this, and whoever's paying for it probably owns it, don't they? In some sense.
I have to drop, but I'll send back the questions for him just to find out the originating purpose. I think he's just thinking about conglomerating projects together, not anything out of bad will. But
No.
yeah, to your point, if we have no community around this, network's already a niche in Cardano. So, and to answer the longevity question, it gets archived, Neil, if no one's there to maintain it. So
Yeah, I know that, and all the rest of it. But I mean, yeah, but don't forget, building roads is a niche responsibility, but without them, you wouldn't have civilization. So just be careful what you say about networking. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
for the record, I'm looking at typed protocols on Hackage right now. It's only showing having one direct reverse dependency, 25 total downloads in the lifetime of the thing, 11 in the past 30 days. So I mean, like, again, not really screaming this is a critical mission critical dependency.
Now look at IOSIM.
Oh yeah, I'll look at IOSIM next. So but yeah, for typed protocol, definitely.
The type protocol
IO
is much more niche than IOSIM, right? But IOSIM forms the basis of the FSSIM, which emulates failures in the IO system, for example. So it is there for property-based testing. It gets you everything, right? That's what I'm saying. Now,
yeah, so IOSIM is showing, again, has almost the same maintainer list of names. So unsurprising there. But yeah, 4,206 total downloads, 29 in the last 30 days, but doesn't show any reverse dependencies according to Hackage. So
because
it's probably being imported in a weird way that's different, that Hackage can't tie it back
there aren't
together.
any package other Hackage packages that are based on it, but I can tell you there are no. The whole of Cardano is.
Okay, yeah, so it's probably something that we would need to somehow review, like which files would I look at in all of the Intersect owned repositories to see if where IOSIM is used. Like what would I search for if I was doing my due diligence here?
You would go through the Cabal files and all the things you consider to be Cardano-like, and you would extract the dependencies from them.
Okay, so the Cabal files is the ones we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay.
Ben.
Since this is an upstream dependency of the node, is there a chance that it actually already falls under maintenance funding that has been issued to IO?
I would say at the present, yes, but I mean, this is part of the question why is it being asked to be pushed across.
Like, taking on organizational ownership of the repository doesn't bother me as much. It may bother some. If it falls out of maintainership because Intersect doesn't fund it, but it's still under our organization. Like, if it falls to that situation, the market dictated that it wasn't necessary, or we outright neglected it. But it's really about the cost of maintenance and who bears that burden. And I think my understanding here is that, yeah, IO, as maintainer of the node, needs to maintain this upstream dependency, as they functionally have done for years. Like, they've been paying one organization or another to do so.
Yeah.
And now they're being paid to do that payment. Feels
So
like
so this is
There's a logical limit there, and I know like IO is like actively in doing this, but like the glorious Haskell compiler is required for Cardano node to work currently, right? But do we have a ecosystem-wide responsibility to maintain the Haskell language? I know IO is actually contributing in that regard, and probably so are many of the other contractors that have worked on Cardano over the years. But is that actually a requirement? Like, is Intersect going to be asked to own GHC next because it's a dependency of Cardano node? Like, where is our in-house brewed dependencies become our own?
I totally,
you know,
it's a boundary question. I agree with Ben, right? In that basically, so the real question is, why are they trying to, are they just trying to make the ownership change, or are they looking for the responsibility to pay for its upkeep to change, right? Because if those are the two issues that we have here, and if it's the responsibility for the upkeep, then I think, Ben, the question you just asked is a very relevant question to ask.
Yeah, I'm just more concerned with how is this going to cost us long term. Now, to Adam Demon's concerns around GHC, I do think that as arguably the largest ecosystem adopting Haskell, there probably is some GHC maintenance costs that we should shoulder. Otherwise, from what I know of the Haskell Foundation, the finances aren't great. And I would say there's been a lot of improvements in GHC over the last 5 years, especially. Ultimately, I suppose we could say, no, we're paying IO to keep the node running. And if GHC falls to bit rot, then I guess IO needs to keep up GHC, or we need to move to a different reference implementation.
So the key question we have here is, it's about boundaries and responsibilities. So it's sounding like we could use this question to work out what the boundaries and the responsibilities should be, right? Because I would agree with you, Ben, it's a difference between ownership and maintainability, right? Maintained it there. Now, I'm pretty certain that Marcin is basically going to say it's really cheap to maintain, right? I.e., a sub person, a quarter person, an eighth person, or something that can maintain all the networky stuff. Given I know how much effort he puts into it, right? But I'm just saying that's the point. Okay.
Yeah, I've just posted an advert here for some work that IO is doing to promote a enterprise grade Haskell release. So this is stablehaskell.org. So the ecosystem is paying for some development via IO, and there is commitment there. Great.
But again, we're not bringing Haskell under Intersect ownership and trying to like deflect that responsibility away. So there's a difference, and I said it in the chat, between contributing upstream to open source projects and then trying to shunt that responsibility over to a different organization and saying, no, this is your baby now, you take care of it. It's kind of a forced adoption that I don't know that it makes sense for these very niche libraries that happen to be used in some of our projects.
I believe they were purpose built for our project. Certainly typed protocols.
Well, yeah, obviously they were. They were developed by well-typed and IO, right? Like, but
well, they have other projects too. Well-typed. But...
Yeah. So the point was, back to the very big discussion about capabilities. These were capabilities that were missing, right? That had to be developed in order to give you things, right? So for example, IO Sim being an ability to effectively do timed traces against each other and reproducible things in a timed environment. It's a timed environment property checker. So it's effectively, it's a sort of mishmash. No, it's a mix of discrete event simulation and property-based testing and things like this. Represents a step forward in which we wouldn't have had such a stable node were we to ever have done it any other way. Okay. And I'm willing to raise, I talked about half a glass of cider. I'm willing to go to several crates of cider, that this is going to be a major problem for all the other nodes when they come to do that integration. This is going to cost them a lot of time. and they're going to need something similar, a similar functionality. So I'm just saying, yeah, it was built because otherwise we couldn't have got where we are today, and now other people are using it because it was useful outside. But I think that's the best. I think the best way to do this is let's go back and find out why they try to push it across the boundary. Because if it's,
I suspect it's just about making it more open source and
let's find out, right? Well, let's see if this is. So the first question is: this could be Marcin thinking he's making it more open source, or it could be he's been asked to do this by IO. Let's find that out to start off with.
Thanks, Aaron. Good discussion. Tex, do you want to finish off by giving us an update on the committee election status?
Yeah, again, I kind of referred to my update in the thread there. There's not much that I have as far as an update directly. I guess I'll repeat for those who may no longer be able to access or see that. Just make sure I'm on the right one here. Okay. Voting will close on Friday at 7 a.m. So assuming you still have your membership and it's valid, which would be the expectation if you would like to go and vote for who comes on to the technical steering and or the committees, please go ahead and do so. Yes, noon UTC, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time is how that equates. That's why I said yes instinctively. Noon UTC is the vote closure time. And then there is, or should be, an onboarding deck. Be honest, I have not had a chance to take a look at that, but if there's a couple of members, or Kevin, if that's just something that you and I want to work on, whatever the consensus is, if there's anything that any member feels should be in the onboarding deck, feel free to drop that to me in any available channel or via DM.
Yeah, I suggest we take a look at it next week in whilst we're at the Cardano Summit Tex, and then pass it on to the group to see if there are any changes they want to make.
Okay.
Great. So the elections close on Friday. When is the result going to be announced?
Should be 1 week later on the 14th.
14th. Okay. So then we can expect to start on board the new members in the meeting in about 2 weeks' time.
Correct.
Great. Looking forward to seeing the new members. Thanks, everyone. I assume there are no more items to add to the agenda.
Not aware of. Thank you.
Okay. So we will keep the next week's meeting. Maybe be face to face. We'll advise this group of what's going on.
Okay.
Nice to talk to you. See you next week, Marcus.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.